Hi, Marylaure. It's very nice to see that you're writing again. I'm sorry to hear that you've gotten some cancellations for your IELTS test date, but at least you have some time to prepare. So I'm glad to see that you're taking advantage of it. Let's take a look and see what you wrote in this set of essays. The first one is about local governments pushing companies to regional locations. Let's see what you said. Local governments want more companies to leave urban areas and relocate to the country. In this discussion, we'll see examples of positive and negative issues which are arising from doing so. Okay, it's brief, but it's fine. It's not really a discussion though, it's an essay. So you could have said that instead. It does feel more accurate to call it an essay rather than a discussion. Okay, let's move on. Most companies' clients reside in cities. Now that's a little bit of a generalization, but let's see what you say about it. Therefore, it's harder for companies to expand their database once they have moved from populated areas. Recruiting staff can also be problematic, as the companies might face a lack of personnel to recruit or underqualified job seekers. Having a shop front in the city, no comma, is also a passive way to advertise one's services, as a wider range of people will be able to be exposed to the products or the services sold. Okay, it's a fine paragraph. There were a couple of things here for me that were missing. The first thing that was missing was a strong topic sentence. Okay, so basically, just as we have an introduction in the beginning of every essay, we also need an introduction to every paragraph, where you essentially say what the paragraph is about. And it doesn't have to be something earth-shattering. It could just be something as simple as something like this. Look, there are numerous disadvantages which arise from companies moving to regional locations. That simple, that straightforward. What it does is it provides a bit of a roadmap for the reader so that the reader knows, okay, this is the paragraph that talks about disadvantages. And so the reader is mentally prepared to hear those, to read those, and see what you have to say about it. Okay, so that for me was missing. Also, it would have been nice if you had had a similar sentence here, which acts as a conclusion. It's more or less just a restatement of the first sentence. So something like, therefore, it is clear that moving out of the city can cause certain problems for businesses. Okay, so just a restatement of that first sentence, but this for me was missing. Now, if you had had that, let's see how the actual development of this went. Now, the first thing I said to you when I read this is that I thought that this was a little bit of a generalization. I thought you could have done a little more with this piece of information here. Like you've got this, this main idea here. Let me just highlight it. Okay. So here, I thought you could have done a little more with this. So assuming you had said here that certainly there are numerous disadvantages involved with moving to regional locations. One drawback lies in the fact that for many businesses, the customers reside in cities, making it far harder for companies to reach their customer base once they have moved from populated areas. Now, essentially, you and I have said the same thing. So maybe it's not the ideas themselves that needed development, but it was really just the language. It needed to just be taken up a step higher. Maybe because you've got some simple sentences here like this. Most clients reside in cities. It's a very simple sentence, and I'd like to see maybe the grammar improved, elevated a little bit, okay? Taken to a higher level. Okay, now here, you said this, recruiting staff can be problem. So why are you assuming that there are underqualified job seekers in the country? All right, explain that to me. It really is just a matter of saying that, you know, because jobs are very competitive and the majority of jobs are in the city, high qualified applicants tend to live there. Therefore, it's difficult to find qualified personnel in the country. So just really spelling it out step by step for us, it just makes a difference. So let's move on. However, the main issues, no comma, and having companies settled in megalopolis, it should be a plural, megalopolises, are the decrease in benefits for both parties. Obviously, the rent paid by a company will be higher, which reduces its profit, and with a reduced profit, the government takes less money on taxes. Okay, so let me get this straight. You're talking about the negatives, the drawbacks of moving to the country. And here you're talking about the drawbacks of staying in the city. So drawbacks of the country, drawbacks of the city. And now let's see what you said after that. As the pandemic changes our working habits, a new norm is developing in most offices. These changes have shown a rise in employees working from home, and many companies are now running without requiring a physical office. They are thus maximizing profits. The barrier of gaining a new clientele without meeting in person is also lowering, as people are more open-minded to use the technology. Video conferencing, which seemed odd at first, is now accepted more widely. All right, let's talk about it in a minute. To conclude, the effect of the pandemic on our habits will boost the chances of local governments to convince more companies to move to rural areas. In doing so, the governments should obtain higher revenues to be used to counteract the devastating economic effects of the pandemic. Okay, your conclusion was fine. I had a real problem, though, with these two paragraphs. Okay, so let's talk about what happened then. What were you supposed to talk about? You were supposed to talk about the benefits of moving to regional locations. Okay? You were supposed to talk about the drawbacks of moving to regional locations. Here you talked about the drawbacks of moving to regional locations. So that's covered. Here, you didn't talk about the advantages of moving to regional locations. Instead, you talked about the drawbacks of staying in the city. You should not assume that the drawbacks of staying in the city and the advantages of moving to regional locations are the same. They are not. Okay? Or they are not necessarily the same. Okay? So it's really important that you analyze what they've asked you to analyze. They did not ask you to analyze the disadvantage of staying in the city. Okay? And that's what you talked about. So this paragraph was absolutely off topic. Not to mention that it was really, really short. Look at it. It's 2 sentences. And 2 sentences is not a body paragraph. So it's off topic and it didn't belong here. So this absolutely had to go. And then here, I really thought this was irrelevant. I didn't understand what this had to do with anything. And now you're talking not about regional locations at all, but you're talking about remote working, which is not what the question asked you about. So you've got 2 paragraphs here which are absolutely off topic. This needed to be about the benefits of moving to regional locations. What are they? What do companies have to gain? What do the employees have to gain? What does the regional location have to gain? Okay, and there are lots of things you could have said here, tons, but that's what you need to focus on and not what you focused on here or here. Okay, so that was one thing I want to talk about. There was also some choppiness in your sentences, like right here I want to talk about this. I wanted to change this. Look at this. These changes have shown a rise in employees working from home, and many employees are now running without requiring a physical office, comma, thus maximizing profits. Okay, so it's a beautiful sentence like that. Advanced, it's complex. It's very nice if you do it like that. This is just a choppy little sentence that's not really doing you any favors. So get rid of the they are, put a comma here, and then combine it. Okay. But yeah, and then the task achievement in this essay was a problem for me. So I want you to be careful about it, okay? All right, let's take a look now at your task 1. Okay, your first task 1. You've got 2 task 1s for us, I think. Let me check. All right, no, you only have this one. Fine. Okay. All right, we don't say in the top part. We say that the diagram shows, I mean, this should really be second nature to you now. You should just have like a standard introduction. The diagram provided shows the different processes involved in making different tea varieties. That's one thing, okay? And then you can talk about your overview after this. So not in the top part, just say the flowchart shows, etc., etc., and then full stop. And then you can have your overview. I don't see an overview anywhere actually. So why don't we put it here? What would I say for my overview? There are a ton of different things. You could say that of the 4 main tea types, white tea is the simplest, while oolong is the most complex. And scented tea can be made from only green, black, or oolong tea. Okay, that for me is an overview. All right, so let's see what else you did here. All right, the process starts with fresh tea leaves. The tea leaves are then sorted and cleaned. Now, okay, yeah, fine. Apart from white tea leaves, which need to be steamed, all other varieties require withering. After this process is complete, the green, black, and oolong tea leaves are treated differently. All right, what happened to white? These processes either use motion or heat to help the leaves release their aroma. The oolong and black tea leaves are the only ones to go through fermentation, full for the latter and short for the former. They all, apart from the black tea leaves and green tea, sometimes are dried at the end of previous process. Okay. Scents can be added during a second stage, but only for green, black, or oolong tea leaves. They are first dried, then scents are used using either fruits or flowers. Finally, the tea leaves are cooled. Okay, this is okay. I got through it all right, but I felt like there were maybe cleaner ways of doing it. I felt kind of like you left some stuff out. Yeah, you talked about fermentation. I felt like you skipped some of this stuff. Do you have to mention all of it? No, probably not. But it did feel a little underdeveloped in a couple of places. So for example, with white tea, you left us right after being steamed. And then we don't know what happens to white tea. You don't tell us anything else about that. Then you talk about motion or heat, but we don't really understand what that means. So you didn't use any of these details about shaking or rolling or cutting. We don't know any of that. We do know about fermentation, but we also don't know what is happening to green tea. You haven't told us that at all, because it's got stuff happening here. It's pan-fried, or it's steamed or fired. It's shaped and rolled. So you left all of that out for us. So I felt like that was a little confused. I felt like it was a little underdeveloped in that sense. Now, there are ways to do this where you can pretty much mention most of the stuff here that you did, but maybe in a slightly different way. Now, let's talk about the thing that's the most problematic. So obviously for me, one problem is that I felt like you left out some of the details that should have been included. But more important for me is that you did not include an overview. It's really important to know that without an overview, you will not get a 6 for task achievement. Okay, the best score you can get for task achievement in task 1 without an overview is a 5. Okay, so keep that in mind. And I pretty much explained to you what an overview should look like for something like this. So that's something I want you to keep in mind as well. Now I understand that this is your last set, Marylaure. I would like to see more essays from you. I'm glad to see that you're writing again, but I do see from this task, maybe you've been out of practice. I'm not sure. But I would like to see more essays from you, because I think there's still work that needs to be done to get you one of those scores that you probably need, okay? See if you can sign up for more essay corrections with us. I really want to encourage you to do that. I think that we need to kind of refresh some of the writing skills that you had been developing. So hopefully we'll see more of your essays, okay? Good luck. Let us know what you decide to do, please, either way. So I'm looking forward to seeing more of your writing. Good luck.